Welcome back to Defensive Firearms. Okay folks, we're going to get into the meat of the course now. In this video, I will discuss the basic construction and terminology of the cartridges that the firearm fires. Let's start with some basic terms. A cartridge consists of a metal case, usually made of brass, but sometimes steel or aluminum, filled with a measured amount of gunpowder, with a small detonator called a primer in the base of the case, and a projectile called a bullet seated in the case mouth. Shown here is a cross-section of a cartridge. A cartridge is also informally called a round. A quantity of cartridges is collectively referred to as ammunition, or ammo for short. Sometimes a cartridge is mistakenly called a bullet by the uninformed. The bullet is only part of the cartridge, as you have already seen. Here's a diagram showing the cartridge case cross-section on the left, and on the right, the top view and cross-section of a primer. This is called a boxer primer, the most common type of primer. The weights of the bullet and gunpowder charge in the cartridge are measured in grains, or GR, with 1 ounce equal to 437.5 grains. The muzzle velocity, or MV, is the speed at which the bullet is expelled out of the firearm, and is typically given in feet per second, or FPS. The muzzle energy, or ME, is a combination of the bullet's weight and its muzzle velocity. The picture to the right shows a base of 2 bullets. The bullet on the right is a full metal jacket, or FMJ type, with a lead core covered by a copper jacket except for its base. The bullet on the left is a total metal jacket type, or TMJ type, with a lead core completely covered by a copper jacket, including the base. In military parlance, cartridges that contain full metal jacket bullets are referred to as ball ammunition. A rifle is a long-barreled firearm that the shooter holds against the shoulder. It's shoulder-fired, in other words. Shown below is a bolt-action rifle. This particular model is a Remington 700, very popular with hunters and also military and police snipers. A handgun is a smaller firearm which is held in the hands only, with no shoulder contact. An intermediate shoulder-fired firearm called a carbine fills the gap between a rifle and a handgun. We'll be looking at handguns and carbines in following videos. A firearm's chambering refers to the cartridge it fires. Cartridges are generally divided into handgun, intermediate, and rifle types. A shotgun is a shoulder-fired firearm that fires a special kind of cartridge called a shotgun shell. The shotgun shell contains multiple round, lead or steel projectiles called pellets, or a single large projectile called a slug. Shown below is a pump-action shotgun. This particular model is a Mossberg 500, very popular with civilians and military and police alike. This particular firearm has a aftermarket pistol grip and adjustable length buttstock installed. Shoulder-fired firearms such as rifles, shotguns, and carbines are sometimes informally referred to as long guns to distinguish them from handguns. An automatic firearm is designed to fire rounds repeatedly as long as the trigger is pressed until the internal ammo supply is expended. Examples of automatic firearms are the machine gun and submachine gun you see in World War II movies. Shown here is a British-made Bren light machine gun and a German-made MP40 submachine gun, both widely used during World War II. The machine gun fires a rifle-type cartridge, whereas the submachine gun fires a handgun-type cartridge and is sometimes referred to informally as a machine pistol. A semi-automatic firearm is designed to fire one round with each trigger press. A selective fire firearm is designed to fire automatically or semi-automatically. An assault rifle is an informal term for a military selective fire carbine, such as the Russian-made AK-47 and the US-made M4A1, as shown here. Here's a display of common handgun cartridges. I pointed out 3 cartridges that I will revisit later. In the second column, top cartridge, is the 9x19mm Luger or Parabellum, also known as the 9x19mm NATO, or the 9mm Luger, or the 9mm, or just the 9mm or 9mm informally. In the third column is the 22 Winchester Magnum rimfire, or the 22 WMR, or the 22 Magnum, or just the 22 Mag informally. Further down in the third column is the 38 Smith & Wesson Special, or the 38 S&W Special, or the 38 Special, or just the 38 informally. I mention all of these different names for the same cartridge to illustrate how the naming of cartridges can be somewhat arbitrary or non-standardized. The 9mm Luger, for example, is named after George Luger, its designer. And the 38 Smith & Wesson Special is named after the company that developed it, Smith & Wesson. I also want to point out the 22 long rifle cartridge in the first column, 5th cartridge down. This cartridge is probably the most popular and versatile cartridge ever developed. It's used for every possible purpose, from hunting, training, Olympic competitions, and just plinking, which is a term meaning shooting for fun, like shooting at soda cans. It's even used by military special forces to take out enemy sentries. The 38 and 38 Special is somewhat of an anomaly because it designates the caliber of the original bullet when this cartridge was developed back in the late 1800s. The modern 38 Special bullet is actually about 0.354 inches or 9 millimeters in diameter, same caliber as the 9mm Luger. This picture below shows the base of 2 cases with a primer installed on the left and without a primer on the right. The right picture shows the main components of a cartridge: a metal case with a primer installed, gunpowder, and a bullet. This bullet is a jacketed soft point bullet, which is a lead core completely covered by a copper jacket except for its tip. This bullet incorporates a cannelure, which is a band of ridges around the bullet's body. The 38 Special case is a rimmed case, with a rim that's wider than the case body. Here are 2 38 Special cartridges with the same case but different bullet types, powder charges, and muzzle velocities. The left cartridge incorporates a 130 grain round nose full metal jacket bullet with a muzzle velocity of about 810 feet per second. The right cartridge incorporates a 158 grain lead semi-wad cutter hollow point bullet with a muzzle velocity of about 850 feet per second. In the picture on the below right, the case mouth is roll crimped into the full metal jacket bullet's cannelure to hold it tightly. The lead semi-wad cutter hollow point bullet's cannelure is a groove into which the case mouth is roll crimped. Let's look at the 9x19mm Luger cartridge some more. This cartridge is widely used by police and military organizations as well as civilians worldwide. The 9 in the 9x19mm designates the caliber of the bullet of 9mm or .354 inches, and the 19mm is the length of the case. In the picture lower right, both bullets are full metal jacket with the left weighing 115 grains and the right weighing 124 grains. Both have muzzle velocities in the 1,100 to 1,200 feet per second range. The left case is made of brass, which is the most common case material, and the right case is made of aluminum, which is relatively uncommon. Below, notice the flash hole in the case on the right without a primer. The spark from the primer shoots through this hole, igniting the powder charge in the case. The 9mm Luger cartridge is taper crimped. This means the case is pressed tighter towards the mouth, resulting in a tight hold on the bullet. These bullets don't have cannelures. The 9mm Luger case is rimless, meaning its rim is the same width as the case body. This is a display of common intermediate and rifle cartridges. The cartridges numbered 1 through 10 are intermediate, 11 through 19 are rifle, and 20 is a shotgun shell. Notice most of these cartridges contain bullets with pointed tips. This type of bullet is often called a Spitzer or Spire point bullet. Also, most of these cartridges are bottleneck types, with a wider body than the mouth. Notice the 22 Magnum cartridge is also displayed here because this cartridge, as well as the 22 long rifle cartridge, is used in all types of firearms. Cartridge number 9 is the 5.56 by 45mm NATO, also known as the 5.56 NATO, or the M855 U.S. military designation, or the SS-109, which is the NATO designation, or informally as the 5.56. Generally, the 5.56 by 45mm NATO is considered to be an intermediate cartridge between a handgun and a rifle cartridge. The 5.56 designates the bullet's caliber of 5.56 millimeters, which is nominally 0.22 inches, and the 45 millimeters designates the length of the case. The cartridge on the right contains a 62 grain full metal jacket boat tail bullet, or FMJ-BT bullet. This bullet contains a lead core with a steel insert. The cartridge on the left contains a 55 grain full metal jacket boat tail bullet. The boat tail bullet tapers towards its base, as shown in the photo on the upper right. The muzzle velocities of both cartridges are in the 3,000 to 3,200 feet per second range. The cartridge on the right is taper crimped, and the one on the left is roll crimped. You might be wondering why the cartridge on the right bullet is painted green. Well, that's to make it easy to distinguish from the 55 grain bullet cartridge on the left. The .22 Magnum cartridge is basically a souped up .22 long rifle cartridge. This cartridge, like the .22 long rifle, is widely used in handguns, intermediate firearms, and rifles. The .22 refers to the bullet's diameter or caliber of nominally 0.22 inches, and Magnum indicates the increased cartridge length, powder charge, and muzzle velocity over the .22 long rifle. Notice this bullet's caliber is the same as the 5.56 by 45 millimeter cartridge that we just looked at. The bullets, left to right, are a 30 grain Spitzer with copper jacket and polymer tip, muzzle velocity about 2,200 feet per second from a rifle. The second cartridge is a 50 grain copper jacketed hollow point, muzzle velocity about 1,500 feet per second from a rifle. And the third bullet is a 45 grain jacketed hollow point with polymer insert, muzzle velocity about 1,700 feet per second from a rifle. All the cases are made of brass, with the third case from the left nickel plated. The .22 mag and .22 long rifle cartridges are rimfire cartridges. This means a small amount of gunpowder is deposited inside the rim as the case is being formed and serves as a primer. There's no separate primer, as we have seen in the previous cartridges. After the cartridge is loaded into the firearm, one of two main methods is used to fire it. The most common method is to utilize a spring-loaded metal block called a hammer, which strikes a steel pin called the firing pin, driving it into the primer. A second method used in some handguns and most bolt-action rifles is to utilize a spring-loaded steel pin called a striker, which strikes the primer. When struck, the primer ignites the powder charge in the case, propelling the bullet at high speed out of the firearm. This picture shows the bases of 3 fired cases. Left to right is a .38 special case. Second is a 5.56 NATO case. And third is a .22 Magnum case. Notice the dent in each primer left by the firing pin of the firearm. Cartridges are also categorized into 2 general groups based upon the primer type: center fire and rim fire. I think it's easy to guess which are which. Okay, here are the 4 cartridges that I have discussed in this video. See if you can identify each cartridge and its main components from memory. The next video to watch is video 3, 3 types of defensive firearms.